Today, we're talking about the do's and don'ts for gripping the handle on the rowing machine, as well as one very important consideration at the finish of the rowing stroke when it comes to grip. We're going to start with the most basic consideration when it comes to gripping the handle on the rowing machine, and that is how hard you grip. And when it comes to this grip, we want to make sure that we're not on either end of the spectrum, that spectrum being too hard of a grip where we're trying to squeeze blood out of a stone, or too loose of a grip where there's the chance that we lose the handle. So in a very basic sense, when it comes to gripping the handle, we want to make sure that we have enough of a grip on the handle that we're able to hang off of that handle each and every stroke we take on the rowing machine. And we're not hanging on so tightly that it creates tension in our arms, which translates tension up into the shoulders and the neck. And then we become more and more tense throughout the entire body, because we're gripping it and ripping it every single stroke. And I don't really need to demonstrate it again because it's jarring as it is, but if the grip is too loose, then we lose the handle, and the handle goes ricocheting into the front end of the machine. And if we don't have the handle in our hands, we can't possibly be taking any rowing strokes. So from a very basic consideration when it comes to grip, you want to make sure that the handle is firmly in your hands, but not so much so that you're creating tension throughout your body, and not so little that there is the potential, as you start to sweat, as you start to fatigue, that you would lose the handle and thereby lose strokes as you're clamoring to get back to the front end to grab that handle and start your piece again. The second point to consider is how we grip the handle. And a lot of people feel most comfortable with their fingers wrapped around the handle and tucked underneath the handle, so that when they row, they are fully gripping the handle with the fingers wrapped around and under the handle as they row. And this position is completely fine as long as we are not gripping too hard onto that handle. But this grip will ensure that we are connected to the handle and are not going to lose it through the drive of the rowing stroke. A second way to grip the handle has more of a hook fashion to it. So instead of wrapping the fingers fully around the handle, we flatten the hands and we allow the handle to travel a bit forward, and the fingers hook around the edges of the handle. They're somewhat wrapped around the handle, and so we have good connection and good hang off the handle. And a benefit from this positioning is that it helps relax the hands enough that we're still hanging and we're able to hang off the handle, but it's not so loose and so far out into the fingers that we lose the handle. So the two positions really that are common for rowers, and you'll decide which one is most comfortable for you, is either to fully wrap your fingers around the handle or to relax enough that you are hanging off the handle in a hook-like fashion. There will be people or coaches who swear by one method or the other, and they'll have their reasoning for either, but I encourage you to experiment to determine which one is best for you. I personally prefer to relax the hands enough to get that hook, to then hang off that handle and feel that I'm really relaxed in the arms and that my strokes are nice and long and free. Now, I can wrap my hands around and I can row this way as well and still feel connected and still feel strong, but I just feel more comfortable with just that little bit of relaxation in the hands and hooks around with the fingers as opposed to a full grip. Now, regardless of which grip you choose, the one thing that I will be insistent upon with you is that if your grip is fully closed or your grip is more of a hook, your top of your hand needs to be flat, in line with the arms, and in line with the chain as you drive across the rowing stroke. So regardless of grip, whether or not it's fully closed or somewhat relaxed, we want to make sure that each stroke we take, we're in line with the arms and the chain, and that the hands are flat in this motion. What we don't want to have happen is for the wrist to come down as we come through, or for the wrist to come up as we come through. Neither of which are great, because that requires forearm activation to hang off the handle. And I don't care how strong your forearms are, they are not going to be able to hang off of the power that is produced from your legs and being transferred into the machine. So if we come through and we have the wrists up, we are just begging for a bunch of early arm activation, a bunch of pump in the forearms, a tiring of the forearms, pain problems, etc. It's no good. So we really want to make sure, regardless of a more closed grip or a more relaxed grip, that as we drive, that we're keeping the arms, the top of the hand, and the chain in line as we press across the drive. It's just one continuous line, one long hang, as if our arms are simply an extension of the chain. There's no wrists up, there's no wrists down. We are just hanging off as an extension of that chain line. So what that requires in order to make it happen where we can stay nice and horizontal and level in line with the chain is to make sure that, yes, we have enough grip in either of these grips, that we're able to maintain connection in the handle, but at the same time, the grip is simply in the hands and the fingers, and the wrist is just relaxed. And so if we can maintain enough grip in our hands and enough relaxation in our wrists, then we can maintain that good hang and level draw horizontally across the rowing stroke. And at the start of the video, I mentioned grip as it relates to the finish of the rowing stroke. This is a comfortable finish for me. And what you may be noticing in my finish is that although my hand is flat, I do have a slight bend in the wrist. And so as I come through and squeeze the handle to the body, you can see that my elbows are lower than my wrists. And there are varying schools of thought when it comes to the finish. Some people are very specific and they want to make sure that the arms, the wrists, the hand are in line with that chain all the way through the stroke and into the finish. What I find for me and for my athletes is that this creates a chicken wing effect and the elbows go out to the sides. And if the elbows go out to the sides, as opposed to the elbows coming back and through, we are not able to really fully utilize our back with chicken wing elbows out. It takes the elbows coming back past the body for our shoulders to draw back and together at the finish. So elbows back and through creates this super strong finish point. And we want to keep the shoulders low in socket, so we don't want to get too wide with our elbows because that encourages the shoulders to come up towards our ears. So all of this is to say, for the majority of the stroke, regardless of how you grip, I would like to see you hanging off the handle with flat wrists, flat hands, long arms, and as you squeeze to the body, then switch the thinking to what your elbows are doing and how your elbows are bringing your shoulders back together and how your elbows are actually what's drawing the handle to this nice strong finish point. And then just let your wrists move slightly to that comfortable position at the finish. So it's flat, little bit of angle. Flat, little bit of angle. Some people will take exception with what I just said, so I recommend that you try it to figure out what is best for you in terms of that finish. Where do you feel the strongest? Is it keeping the hand completely flat and the arm in line with that wrist and hand at the finish? Or is it allowing just a little bit of angle and for the elbows to be slightly below the hands at the finish to ensure a stronger stroke through? And I will leave that to you to decide. So to recap, when it comes to grip, either wrapping your hand fully around the handle with a flat hand on top is acceptable, and or relaxing with a flat hand and getting a hook-like fashion with your fingers is acceptable. And then once you have determined what the best grip is for you, where you're not gripping too strong, where you are not gripping too lightly, then it is about doing your best to hang off the handle and feel that your arms, your wrists, and your hands are an extension of the chain and are in line with the chain. And then when it comes to the finish, find the best finish position for you. And that is either keeping your hands flat, or what I prefer, which is to focus on the elbows and the strong draw of the elbows back and through to bring the handle to the finish position and allowing the wrists to bend where they need to facilitate low shoulders, strong finish through the shoulder, and a solid finish height. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends and teammates, and know there'll be even more rowing content coming to you soon.